want to talk about all-time Celtics starting five stuff because I put this out on Twitter today, and it's getting some good discussions happening. Basically, I put out that my all-time starting five for the Boston Celtics would be Bill Russell, the GOAT Russell, at the 5, Garnett at the 4, Larry Bird at the 3, and Jayson Tatum I have listed, but it's really Bird and Tatum as wings, so I shouldn't even have started with numbers. It's Russell and Garnett at the bigs, Bird and Tatum at the wings, and then Dennis Johnson at point guard. My bench, I have Cowens, McHale, Pierce, Havlicek, Sam Jones as the second unit. And then deeper into the roster, I have Cousy, Parish, and Ray Allen. Now, before I get into the highly debatable aspects of these selections, there are 3 guys in the starting 5 that I think are immovable. They must be there, and it's not really a debate. That's Garnett, Bird, and Russell. Bird and Russell, I don't really think I need to get into why they can't be anywhere but the starting 5. Garnett, the only argument you could make is that he wasn't there long enough. But I think that his sheer impact and his talent level compared to the rest of the players in NBA history, and the fact that he was the guy on the 2008 title era, and people will say, no, it was Paul Pierce. Well, Paul Pierce was there longer, and he was kind of the homegrown face of the team, but Garnett was the reason why we won in 2008 overall. Not that he was the only reason. He was the central energy force, main difference maker of that Boston Celtics era. So he needs to be in the starting 5, and none of the Celtics bigs are better than him, simply put. People are saying McHale. No, sorry. Garnett is the guy at the power forward position in the starting 5. Tatum and Dennis Johnson are highly debatable in the 5. A lot of people want Rondo or Cousy. I didn't even put Cousy in my second unit, which caused a ton of shockwaves. I just think that you have to adjust somewhat for eras when you're ranking players, and I think that when you compare the 90s with today, there's not much of a gap. I mean, as much as there is with someone in the 1950s playing NBA basketball. It's a different sport, essentially. And I made the joking comment that Bob Cousy couldn't even really dribble with his left hand, which isn't entirely true, of course, but he didn't often. And the point of that statement was that it was a different sport back then, and I'm not sure it's fruitful to imagine Bob Cousy in the modern era, or to imagine Kevin Garnett in the 50s, which is horrifying to think about how dominant he would have been. I think we can all agree that players are better today, and you can't judge against Cousy for playing in his era. He didn't choose to play in the 50s. That's just when he played. So there's just a small adjustment you have to make for players today. That's a reason why I put Tatum in my starting 5 as well. It's not John Havlicek's fault that he didn't play in the modern era and wasn't able to prove that he's just as good as Tatum or better, as many people are arguing. But basketball players are simply more evolved today and just better than they were as you move back decades. And that's just a small ingredient I'm putting into these discussions. It's not everything. I'm not saying that I'm putting all the modern players in the starting 5. I mean, I have Bill Russell in my starting 5. And you think about a lot of things. Imagine Bill Russell in today's game. He would still be good, I think. I would love to hear arguments against why he wouldn't be good. Guys like Cousy and Russell demonstrate another X factor that I think about when these rankings are compiled, and that is just sort of the ability to win and the ability to compete at a high level regardless of what era you're in. This is something Duncan had, obviously Jordan, Kobe. It separates them from guys that you're kind of just thinking about skill level, athleticism. Bill Russell had something special that, made him way better than someone like Nick Claxton would have been in the 1950s, just because he didn't have 50s or 60s, just because he had more than incredible athleticism at 6'9" and strength and defensive skill. He had something in his personality that made him truly unique. That's a huge thing in these rankings and what makes a good NBA player. It's another reason why Garnett's in the top starting 5 of my rankings. Rondo is someone that I've thought about a lot since putting these rankings out, and a lot of people saying he should be in the starting 5, especially based on what I just said about modern players. Why not? I mean, Celtics point guards through the years are hard to rank just because there's no definitive guy that was the guy all time. I've already said my bit about why it's not Cousy. I think there's very much an argument for Rondo to be that guy in the starting 5. He's good enough. It's easy to argue that he's a better NBA player than Dennis Johnson. So we'll just say that the point guard is pretty interchangeable between Rondo and Johnson. And if you want to throw Cousy in there, you're going to have a gripe with me, but that's okay. I mean, even Sam Jones has an argument based on the amount of titles he won and all of that. Some people jokingly said Kyrie, which leads me to another kind of point about the list, is that you kind of have to contribute a certain baseline to the team. You can't just be like, oh, well, Shaq played for the Celtics. He should be the center, or he should be off the bench. Well, not only was he not in his prime or even close to it on the Celtics, he just, you have to contribute not necessarily a championship, but substantial multiple years to the team, I think. I don't think I have anyone on the list that was there for like a year or two. So I just love to hear other people's thoughts on what their starting 5 would be and how I could have better compiled my list and things that I missed or things that I could have done differently. This is a really fluid discussion. It's really hard. This is an incredible franchise. And I think that Russell, Bird, and Garnett really need to be in that starting 5. I also didn't mention that Havlicek can very well, or Pierce, could be above Tatum in the starting 5. I really think that I was reaching by putting Tatum in my starting 5. He hasn't done enough yet. It's sort of weird of me to assume that he's going to win titles when he hasn't, but that's kind of, I guess, what was in my subconscious when I put him in that 5. Probably too prematurely.